All right, here's our kind of intro to our new notebook and how things are going to look this semester. We're really looking at chapter 6.1 today. So the things that you're going to need is you will need the page that I handed you that looks kind of like this. What you're going to do is fold it in half and then cut along each of these lines so that we have some flaps that we can take our notes in. But where we always want to start is these learning targets. Okay, so this is going to be taped or glued into the very first page of where we're looking at chapter 6 material. Okay, and I'm going to always kind of begin with the learning targets we're focused on today. So today, you'll see we're going to be looking at zero and negative exponents and then be using our properties of exponents. Okay, so once you have your sheet here, we're going to go through and write some examples and some definitions. So first, let's start with the zero exponent. Okay, I always kind of start with my mathematical example. So here I know that a to the 0 is 1. Okay, so a can be just really anything except 0. So I do have to give myself a little a cannot equal 0. So then the words that I'm going to use, my definition, anything except 0 to the 0 power is equal to 1. Okay, so now you'll notice in this section, in this unit, we're really going to start digging into exponential equations. So here we're just getting some basics, and these are the properties of different exponents that we're going to be using. Okay, so now let's look at negative exponents. And I like to do different things in color. It just keeps it a little bit neater when we look in later on. So a negative exponent. So here's my example. If I have a to the negative 2, that becomes 1 over a squared. And again, a cannot equal 0 because you'll see I have it here in the denominator. So what you see is anything when I have a negative exponent, it switches its place in the fraction. So here, since it was in the numerator, to make it positive, it becomes negative. So the word that I can say is that it becomes the reciprocal. And the reciprocal, remember, is just that flipped fraction. And I just always have to remember that if I have a negative exponent in the denominator to start with, to make it positive, I just move it up to the numerator. Okay, so now let's look at some of these other properties. We're dealing here now with the product of powers. So I want you to also think about what the words mean. So product meaning multiplying, powers, I have some exponents. Okay, so the product of powers tell me that if I have a to the m times, and we never use an x for multiply, a to the n, I add the exponent. So it's a to the m plus n. What you'll notice here is that my base is the same thing for both of my terms. And so then I add my exponents. So those are the words I'm going to go ahead and use. So when I have the same base and I'm multiplying, then I add the exponents. Okay, so that's kind of the key thing. So now here we're going to look at the quotient of powers. See, quotient is dividing. So again, here I'm going to have a to the m divided by a to the n. So I'm dividing the same base, right? And I'm going to kind of highlight that. So when I'm dividing, I am going to subtract my exponents. So my base stays the same, so this will be m minus n. Okay? So here we're going to just give ourselves some words. So here I'm going to say same base and dividing. Then we're going to subtract exponents. Okay, so that's kind of our important key piece. Okay, so these two are really similar and we're going to use them pretty often. Okay, so the next one we're going to look at is the power of powers. So to me that tells me exponent and another exponent, which is exactly what this property tells us. So here if I have a to the m to another exponent, so here's where what we're really going to look like pretty often. This is where I multiply my exponents. It's going to be a to the m times n. And we never want to use an x. So this is, I'm going to say, when I have power of power, I multiply the exponents. Okay, so that's kind of the key important piece is I'm multiplying there. So now we want to look at our last two kind of properties that we're really going to be dealing with in this chapter. So the power of a product and the power of a quotient. So remember, product meaning multiplying, quotient meaning dividing. So this kind of tells me that if I have the power of a product, for example, I have A, B, product, right, multiplying to the n, I can separate these out and distribute this. This becomes a to the n times b to the n. Okay? So again, big key thing, this has to be multiplying for this example to work. Okay? So we're going to say when multiplying bases can distribute the exponent. Okay? That's the key important place. So now the power of a quotient, I bet you can kind of guess what that's going to look like. So here I was multiplying, so now if I'm dividing and I have an exponent, that means I can go ahead and distribute this as well over b to the n. So now when dividing bases can distribute the exponent. Okay, it's really important. We're not adding or subtracting inside here. One thing I want you to really notice with all of these is these equal signs. Okay, an equal sign means I can go in both directions. It's not an arrow. I do not have to start here and end up here. So one thing is if you have a problem and you see that the exponents are being subtracted, you can work back this way and turn it into a division symbol in the division problem. We're really going to see this a lot when we get down here in these two properties, is I can start here and work backwards, or I can start here and work forwards. That's the cool thing about these properties, is they go either way. So now how you're going to do this in your notebook, right, is we folded this over. You'll see that it's too long to really fit. So on your new blank page, right, because on the first page inside, right here, you're going to glue or tape your learning targets. Then you're going to go ahead and place this one. So the cool thing is we can go ahead and fold it up a little bit so the bottom few are still going to be inside of our notebook. And then we're going to glue this back piece right here so that it kind of sticks where we need it to be. Okay, so now we're just going to glue this and stick it in. I'm going to always, when we're working on our notebooks, give myself a heads up on what's on this page. So I'm going to say properties of exponents. So when I'm flipping through my notebooks, working on different examples, both now in my homework and later when I'm studying, I'm going to give myself a little key of what am I looking at on this page and what really can I work with. So now the best way to do your homework is to keep this handy little sheet with you, but also have your book, because in your book they walk through several examples and those will be helpful as well. If you get really stuck on the examples, you'll see videos posted in Blackboard as well to help you walk through those and figure out why things are done the way they are. And as always, when you get stuck or have questions, please contact me and I would love to help you with this.